Commander Allison Hart stood tall on the bridge of the U.S. Valiant. The ship's lights dimmed as the holographic projector came to life. A blue light filled the center of the room, slowly taking the shape of an alien figure. The creature had 6 eyes and skin that looked like polished stone. This was Ambassador Zolthrak of the NIGMA Empire. Allison took a deep breath. This meeting was important. Humans had only been traveling beyond their solar system for 2 years. The NIGMA Empire was the first major alien power they had met. According to the reports, the Empire controlled 3 spiral arms of the galaxy. On behalf of Earth and all human colonies, I welcome you, Allison said, her voice clear and strong. We seek peaceful relations and mutual cooperation. The alien's 6 eyes blinked slowly. Then Ambassador Zolthrak made a sound that the translation computer identified as laughter. Your species amuses me, the ambassador said. His voice sounded metallic through the translation system. So small, so young, yet you speak as if you were equals. Captain Daniel Morrison shifted uncomfortably in his chair. Next to him, Science Officer Patricia Winters wrote notes on her tablet, her face showing no emotion. We may be new to interstellar travel, Allison replied, but humanity has a rich history and much to offer in friendship. The ambassador's upper eyes narrowed. The NIGMA Empire does not seek friends. We seek subjects. Your species will submit to imperial rule or face the consequences. The bridge crew exchanged worried glances. This was not how they hoped first contact with a major power would go. Perhaps we could discuss terms that would benefit both our peoples, Allison suggested, trying to keep her voice diplomatic. There are no terms to discuss, Ambassador Zolthrak said. The NIGMA Empire has crushed thousands of civilizations more advanced than yours. Your technology is primitive. Your weapons are toys compared to ours. Your choice is simple: serve or be destroyed. Allison stood straighter. I'm sorry you feel that way, Ambassador. But humans do not submit to threats. We would prefer peace, but we will defend ourselves if necessary. The alien's body seemed to grow larger in the hologram. You have no idea what you are refusing. The might of the NIGMA Empire would make your oceans boil and your cities turn to dust. We have erased entire species from history for less defiance than you show now. We understand the risks, Allison said firmly, but we also understand our own capabilities. I urge you to reconsider peaceful relations. You have 30 Earth days to prepare your surrender, the ambassador stated. After that, we will begin your education in humility. The hologram flickered and vanished. The bridge was silent for several long seconds. Lieutenant William Carter at the tactical station was the first to speak. They have no idea what they're dealing with, do they? Captain Morrison stood up from his chair. Send the recording of this meeting to Earth Central immediately. Full alert status for all ships and colonies. Patricia Winters looked up from her tablet. Based on their technology readings, they outclass us in every category. Their ships are at least 3 centuries beyond our capabilities. Allison nodded slowly. Yes, but they're missing something important. What's that, Commander? Morrison asked. History, she said. Human history is filled with technologically superior forces being defeated by supposedly weaker opponents. We adapt. We improvise. We overcome. Lieutenant Carter nodded. The NIGMA Empire has probably never faced a species like us before. Get me a direct line to Admiral Collins, Morrison ordered. He needs to know we might have a war coming. As the crew rushed to their stations, Allison stared at the empty space where the alien hologram had been. The NIGMA Empire thought they were dealing with a simple, primitive species that would easily surrender. They would soon learn how wrong they were. Humans had spent their entire history fighting against overwhelming odds. This would be no different. The warning had been given. Now it was time to prepare. Admiral Frank Collins frowned as he studied the large screens in Earth Central Command. The room was filled with military officers and scientists, all looking at images of NIGMA ships and bases. The information had been gathered over the last 2 weeks since the first contact. Their ships are twice the size of our largest vessels, Admiral Collins said, and their weapons can destroy a small moon. Dr. Susan Blackwood stepped forward. As Earth's top expert on alien cultures, her opinion was highly valued. The NIGMA technology is impressive, she admitted, but I'm more concerned about their psychology. She tapped on her tablet, and the main screen changed to show images of NIGMA officials. They've ruled most of their galaxy for over 5,000 years, Susan explained. In all that time, they've never lost a war or faced a serious challenge. This has made them extremely arrogant. And that's a weakness we can use, Admiral Collins asked. Susan nodded. They won't expect us to fight back effectively. They think the outcome is already decided. On the other side of the room, Lieutenant Commander Gregory Hoffman stood up. He had just returned from a secret mission to the edge of NIGMA territory. We found something you all need to see, he said, his voice heavy. He connected his data drive to the system, and new images appeared on the screen. They showed planets with huge burn marks covering entire continents, cities reduced to ash, oceans turned black. These were worlds that refused to submit to the NIGMA Empire, Gregory explained. Some were even more advanced than Earth. None of them exist anymore. The room fell silent as everyone took in the images of destruction. Representative Olivia Martinez was the first to speak. We need to try diplomacy again. There must be some way to reason with them. General Peter Wallace shook his head. You can't reason with an empire that thinks of you as insects. We need to prepare for war. We'll do both, Admiral Collins said firmly, silencing the debate. We will attempt diplomacy, but we will prepare for war. History has taught us that much. He turned to Dr. Blackwood. What do we know about their military tactics? They rely on overwhelming force, she replied. They've never needed to develop complex strategies because they've always had superior technology. They expect their enemies to follow predictable patterns. Admiral Collins smiled slightly. Then we'll be unpredictable. He pressed a button on the table, and a new image appeared, a detailed plan called Protocol Thermopylae. This defense strategy was developed 20 years ago, just in case we ever met hostile aliens, he explained. It calls for unconventional tactics and rapid technology development. General Wallace studied the plan. This could work, but we need more time than the 30 days they gave us. We'll make do with what we have, Admiral Collins said. Humans have always been good at beating deadlines when our survival depends on it. He turned to address everyone in the room. I want our best scientists working on adapting any alien technology we studied. Engineers should focus on defensive systems. Military personnel will train for space combat scenarios. Dr. Blackwood raised her hand. What about psychological warfare? The NIGMA have never experienced defeat. They don't know how to handle it. Admiral Collins nodded. Good point. We'll add that to our approach. Over the next few days, Earth became a hub of activity. In orbit, workers rushed to build defense platforms. In secret bases around the world, scientists worked to improve weapons and shields. Military units trained day and night. Lieutenant Commander Hoffman watched a training session where pilots practiced unusual flight patterns. Do you think we have a chance? Asked a young officer standing next to him. The NIGMA have technology, Hoffman replied. But we have something they don't. What's that? History, Hoffman said. Humans have been fighting against the odds since we first picked up sticks and stones. We're good at it. As the Earth prepared, Admiral Collins sent a message to all human colonies and ships. We have 15 days left before the NIGMA deadline. Make every minute count. We only get one chance to show them why they should have heeded our warning. Ambassador Richard Donovan adjusted his uniform as the human shuttle approached the NIGMA outpost. The space station looked like a giant metal flower with 6 large petals extending from a central hub. It was beautiful but threatening. "Remember the plan," said Major Samantha Brooks, who sat beside him. As his military advisor, she was there to watch for any signs of trouble. "We try for peace but show strength." Richard nodded. "I understand. This may be our last chance to avoid war." Their shuttle docked at the station. 4 tall NIGMA guards met them. The aliens stood over 7 feet tall with skin that looked like polished stone. Their 6 eyes blinked at different times, giving them a constant alert appearance. The guards led Richard and Samantha to a large room with a round table. 3 high-ranking NIGMA officials waited there. The one in the middle wore a gold-colored robe and had red markings on his face. "I am High Commander Dreth Cole," the center alien said through a translation device. "You come to deliver your surrender." Richard sat down across from them. "No, we come to talk about peace between our peoples." The High Commander's upper eyes narrowed. "There is no peace without submission. The NIGMA Empire does not make alliances. We rule or we destroy." Richard kept his voice calm. "Before you make that choice, we think you should learn more about humans." He placed a data device on the table. It projected images showing Earth's history, from ancient civilizations to modern cities. "Humans have only been traveling in space for a short time," Richard explained. "But in just the last 100 years on our world, we went from simple flying machines to interstellar ships." The display showed more images: early airplanes, then jets, then space rockets, and finally modern human starships. "We advance faster under pressure," Richard continued. "We thrive when challenged." Major Brooks added, "Our history is full of smaller forces defeating larger ones through creativity and determination." The NIGMA officials looked bored. The one on the left yawned, showing rows of sharp teeth. Richard changed the display to show battles from human history. "When threatened, humans can be remarkably resourceful. We suggest you study Earth's history before making your decision." High Commander Dreth Cole waved his long fingers dismissively. "Your primitive conflicts mean nothing. We have conquered species that were traveling between stars when your kind was still living in caves." "That may be true," Richard acknowledged. "But none of those species were human." The High Commander stood up. He was nearly 8 feet tall and looked down at the humans with all 6 eyes. "Your species will serve or perish. That is the only choice the NIGMA Empire offers." Richard tried one more approach. "We're willing to establish trade relations, cultural exchanges. We could learn from each other." The NIGMA officials laughed, a harsh sound that echoed in the large room. "You have nothing we need," Dreth Cole said. "Your technology is primitive. Your resources are common. Your only value is as servants." Richard stood up slowly. "Then I must inform you that Earth will defend itself." "With what?" sneered the NIGMA official on the right. "Your ships are like children's toys compared to our fleet." Richard gathered his data device. "You have made your position clear. So have we." High Commander Dreth Cole pointed to the door. "You have 30 Earth days to prepare your surrender. After that, we will show you the true might of the NIGMA Empire." As they walked back to their shuttle, Major Brooks whispered to Richard, "They didn't even bother to look at our historical records, did they?" "No," Richard replied. "And that will be their first mistake." Once they were back in space, Richard sent an encrypted message to Admiral Collins. "Diplomacy failed. They refused to listen. We're heading home." On the view screen, he could see more NIGMA ships arriving at the outpost. Their giant vessels looked powerful and unstoppable. "Do you think we can really win against that?" Samantha asked quietly. Richard watched the alien ships for a moment before answering. "We warned them. They chose not to listen." He turned away from the view screen. "Now they'll learn why that was a serious error." Earth changed in the days after Ambassador Donovan's failed peace mission. Cities buzzed with activity as people prepared for the coming danger. The world had united in a way never seen before. Dr. Eleanor Wright wiped sweat from her forehead as she worked in her lab. For the past week, she had slept only a few hours each night. Her team of 50 scientists worked around her, all focused on the same goal: adapting alien technology to help defend Earth. "How's the SHIELD project coming?" Admiral Collins asked as he entered the lab. Eleanor picked up a small metal device from her workbench. "We've made a breakthrough. This prototype can create an energy field that bends and redirects energy weapons." "Will it work against NIGMA weapons?" the Admiral asked. "In theory," Eleanor replied. "We've tested it against similar energy types. It won't stop everything, but it should reduce damage by about 70%. The Admiral nodded, pleased. "That's better than I hoped for. How soon can we start production?" "We're setting up factories now. We should have enough to protect our main ships and defense platforms in 10 days. In orbit above Earth, engineer Joseph Ramirez floated in his spacesuit, directing a team of workers as they built massive defense platforms. The structures were simple but clever in their design. "Place those sensor arrays at odd angles," Joseph instructed his team. "We want them to look like construction errors." A worker named Lisa looked confused. "But won't that reduce their effectiveness?" Joseph smiled. "No, they'll work fine. But the unusual placement will make the NIGMA think our technology is flawed. They won't realize these are decoys until it's too late." While some humans built defenses, others prepared to fight. Lieutenant Amanda Pierce stood before a room full of pilots in a training center in Arizona. "The NIGMA expect us to fight like their other enemies," she explained, pointing to simulation screens showing alien ship movements. "They use strict formation patterns and expect the same from their opponents." She pressed a button, and the screen showed a chaotic pattern of movements. "This is how we'll fight. Unpredictable. Chaotic. They won't be able to predict our movements because there will be no pattern to analyze." One pilot raised his hand. "Their ships are faster and stronger. How do we compete with that?" "We don't," Amanda replied. "We don't try to match their strength. We use their expectations against them." In a secure building in Washington, psychologist Dr. Victor Garcia met with Commander Nathan Edwards and his Special Forces team. "The NIGMA have a social structure based on absolute authority," Victor explained. "Lower ranks cannot make decisions without approval from above." Nathan nodded. "So if we disrupt their command structure?" "Exactly," Victor said. "Their entire system falls apart. They have no training for operating independently." Nathan grinned. "That's something we humans excel at." 20 days after the failed peace mission, Admiral Collins called a meeting of all project leaders. The mood was tense but determined. "The NIGMA deadline is in 10 days, he reminded everyone. "Where do we stand?" Eleanor reported that SHIELD technology was being installed on all major ships and platforms. Joseph announced that the orbital defenses were nearly complete, with special surprises hidden throughout the system. Amanda confirmed that pilots and ship crews had been training in the new tactical approaches. "What about our offensive capabilities?" Admiral Collins asked. Commander Edwards stepped forward. "My teams are ready. We've developed methods to target their communication and command systems." Admiral Collins looked around the room at the tired but determined faces. These people had worked miracles in just a few weeks. "We've done in 20 days what would normally take years," he said. "The NIGMA think they're facing a primitive species that will surrender or be easily defeated." He paused. "They have no idea what humans are capable of when our backs are against the wall." As the meeting ended, Admiral Collins looked out the window at the night sky. Somewhere up there, the NIGMA fleet was gathering, preparing to subjugate Earth. They expected an easy victory. "We have warned them," he said quietly. "We have extended our hand in peace. Now we show them why humans have survived everything our own world has thrown at us for thousands of years." On the 30th day, they came. The sky above Earth darkened as hundreds of NIGMA ships, appeared from faster-than-light travel. The massive vessels looked like metal mountains floating in space. Their hulls gleamed in the sunlight, covered with weapons that could destroy entire cities. High Commander Dreth Kull stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominance. He looked at the blue planet below with his 6 eyes, already imagining how it would look under NIGMA control. "Scan their defenses," he ordered. A lower-ranking officer worked at a control panel. "I detect some orbital platforms, but they appear primitive. Their weapons are basic energy cannons and missile systems." Dreth Kull's mouth formed what passed for a smile among his species, revealing rows of needle-like teeth. "As expected, they are a young species with simple technology." He turned to his weapons officer. "Begin the subjugation protocol. Target their major cities first." The NIGMA ships moved into position around Earth, their weapons powered up, glowing with deadly energy. They fired at the planet below. But something unexpected happened. The energy beams hit invisible barriers around Earth and scattered in different directions. The NIGMA weapons, powerful enough to crack open planets, barely made it through the atmosphere. "What is happening?" Dreth Kull demanded. Before his officers could answer, alarms blared across the bridge. From Earth's oceans, atmosphere, and the dark side of the moon, hundreds of hidden human ships appeared. They were smaller than the NIGMA vessels, but moved with surprising speed. Captain Laura Simmons sat in the command chair of the U.S. Defiant, one of Earth's newest warships. Her hands gripped the armrests as she gave orders. "All ships, execute Pattern Delta. Remember your training. Don't try to match their firepower. Use speed and unpredictability." The human fleet split into small groups. They darted between the larger NIGMA ships, firing weapons at specific points rather than trying to destroy the alien vessels outright. On the Eternal Dominance, Dreth Kull watched in confusion as his targeting systems failed to lock onto the human ships. "Why can't we hit them?" he roared. "Their movement patterns are chaotic," his tactical officer replied. "They don't follow standard combat formations. Our computers can't predict their paths." From Defense Station Alpha in Earth orbit, Engineer Joseph Ramirez monitored the battle. A junior officer stood beside him, watching the displays with wide eyes. "The NIGMA don't understand what's happening," Joseph explained. "Their weapons are designed to fight enemies who use tactics similar to their own. We're using completely different approaches. But their ships are still more powerful than ours," the young officer said. Joseph nodded. "Yes, but we're not trying to overpower them. We're bypassing their strengths and attacking their weaknesses." On the battlefield, human ships targeted communication arrays and sensor systems on the NIGMA vessels. Special forces teams in stealth craft attached devices to the hulls of enemy ships, disrupting their internal systems. 3 hours into the battle, 30 NIGMA warships had been disabled or destroyed. The human fleet had lost only 7 ships, with crews successfully evacuated from most of them. On his flagship, High Commander Dreth Kull faced something he had never experienced before. Failure. A third of his forward fleet was disabled. Communication between ships was breaking down. His officers looked to him for guidance, but he had no experience with a battle going poorly. "Order a retreat," he finally commanded. "We will regroup and develop new strategies." The NIGMA fleet pulled back, jumping to faster-than-light speed as they fled Earth's orbit. For the first time in recorded history, the mighty NIGMA Empire had retreated from battle. In Earth's defense headquarters, Admiral Collins watched the enemy ships disappear from their tracking systems. The room was quiet, people hardly daring to believe what had just happened. "Did we win?" someone finally asked. Admiral Collins shook his head. "No, this was just the first strike. They'll be back, and in greater numbers. But we've accomplished something important today." "What's that, sir?" a young officer asked. "We've shown them we won't be easy to conquer," Collins replied. "And we've planted the first seed of doubt in their minds." Emperor Kraz Thul rarely left his palace on the NIGMA homeworld. Today was different. He stood in the great war chamber, surrounded by his highest commanders. His anger made the room feel cold. How could this happen? The Emperor demanded. His voice was soft but dangerous. How could primitive humans defeat our ships? High Commander Dreth Kull bowed low. They used unusual tactics, Emperor. Their ships moved in ways our targeting systems could not predict. They attacked our communication arrays rather than trying to destroy our vessels. The Emperor's 6 eyes narrowed. So these humans are smarter than we thought. It changes nothing, another commander said. They got lucky once. It will not happen again. Emperor Krastvul turned to face his war council. These humans must be eradicated completely. No mercy, no prisoners. Gather our full military might. We will crush them so thoroughly that even the memory of their species will fade from the galaxy. On Earth, the brief victory celebration had already given way to more intense preparation. Everyone knew the NIGMA would return, stronger and angrier than before. Colonel Heather Phillips led a team of 10 specialists through the dark corridors of a captured NIGMA vessel. The ship had been disabled in the battle and towed to a secret location in the asteroid belt. Move carefully, Heather whispered to her team. We don't know if any systems are still active. They reached the ship's central computer core. Specialist Alan Wong connected a device to the alien technology. I'm in, he said after a few minutes. Downloading their communication protocols and command structure data now. Heather smiled. This will tell us exactly how they organize their forces. It's like getting a copy of their playbook. Back on Earth, scientist Ryan Mitchell worked with the data from the captured ship. He had been studying alien technology for years, but the NIGMA systems were far more advanced than anything he had seen before. I think I've figured out how their quantum communication works, he told Admiral Collins. If I'm right, we can intercept their transmissions and maybe even send false orders to their ships. The Admiral looked impressed. How soon can you have a working system? 2 weeks, maybe less, Ryan replied. But there's a risk. Once we start intercepting or interfering with their communications, they'll know we've broken their codes. We'll only get one chance to use this advantage. Admiral Collins nodded. Then we'll save it for when we need it most. In his office, the Admiral unfolded a star map showing NIGMA territory. He marked several points with red circles. Operation Hydra, he explained to his officers. While their main force heads toward Earth, we'll send small, fast teams to hit these targets throughout their empire. Commander Edwards studied the map. Supply depots, communication relays, shipyards. You want to attack their infrastructure, not their military. Exactly, Collins said. The NIGMA have never faced an enemy that could strike behind their front lines. Their entire strategy is based on overwhelming force moving in a single direction. In space, the NIGMA were already gathering their forces. Thousands of ships formed the largest fleet ever assembled in the Empire's history. Emperor Krastvul himself would lead the attack on Earth. As the massive armada prepared to depart, a small human ship watched from the edge of the system, cloaked by new technology developed from studying NIGMA sensors. Inside, Lieutenant John Rivera recorded everything he saw. There are more ships than we expected, he told his crew. At least 3,000 vessels, maybe more. His communication officer looked worried. Can Earth stand against that many? We won't have to, John replied. Admiral Collins doesn't plan to fight them all at once. The human ship slipped away, carrying vital intelligence back to Earth. The crew didn't notice a small NIGMA patrol craft that spotted them just as they engaged their faster-than-light drive. In his palace, Emperor Krastvul received the report of the human spy ship. So they know we are coming, he said. It changes nothing. Let them prepare. Let them tremble. In the end, they will be dust beneath our feet. But across NIGMA space, the first human strike teams were already moving into position, preparing to launch attacks that would shake the Empire to its core. Dr. Eleanor Wright stood in her laboratory, Looking at her latest creation, the device was small enough to fit in her hand, but represented months of work and the combined knowledge of hundreds of scientists. "Is it ready?" Admiral Collins asked as he entered the room. Eleanor nodded. "Yes, we've modified the NIGMA's own planet killer technology, but we're using it in a way they never imagined." The Admiral picked up the device carefully. "And this will work against their neural network." "In theory," Eleanor said. "It creates a signal that disrupts their central command system. Their entire empire relies on this network to control their forces." While they talked, reports came in from across the galaxy. The human strike teams had been busy. Commander Edwards and his forces had destroyed 5 major NIGMA supply depots. Other teams had attacked communication relays and shipyards, causing confusion throughout the Empire. But these were just distractions. The main NIGMA fleet, led by Emperor Kraz Fold himself, was still coming for Earth. Captain Katherine Johnson walked into the laboratory. As one of Earth's most skilled ship commanders, she had been chosen to lead the next phase of the defense. "We have 3 days before the main NIGMA fleet arrives," she said. "I've been studying their command structure, and I have an idea." She laid out her plan to Admiral Collins and Dr. Wright. When she finished, there was silence in the room. "That's very risky," the Admiral finally said. Catherine nodded. "Yes, but if it works, we end this war without losing millions of lives." "A Trojan horse," Eleanor said softly, using their own arrogance against them. The plan was approved. For the next 3 days, every available ship and station prepared for their part in what was now called the Trojan Gambit. When the NIGMA fleet arrived, they found Earth's defenses much weaker than before. Several outdated defense platforms fired briefly before being destroyed. Emergency signals filled communication channels as humans appeared to panic. On the bridge of the Eternal Dominance, Emperor Kraz Fold watched with satisfaction. "They used all their resources in the first battle," he told his commanders. "Now they have nothing left." The NIGMA ships moved closer to Earth, facing little resistance. Human ships retreated or were destroyed. The planet seemed defenseless. "Send the surrender demand," the Emperor ordered. Soon after, a message came from Earth. The humans were ready to surrender. They requested that the Emperor himself accept their submission, as was tradition in many cultures. "They wish to honor you with a formal surrender," High Commander Dreth Kull explained. "Their leaders will come to this ship to bow before you." The Emperor's 6 eyes blinked with pleasure. "Yes, I will accept their surrender personally. Let them see the face of their new master." A small human shuttle was allowed to dock with the Emperor's flagship. Ambassador Donovan led the delegation, accompanied by 6 other humans, all carrying special containers. "These are gifts for the Emperor," Donovan explained to the NIGMA guards. "Traditional items from Earth to symbolize our submission." The humans were taken to the Grand Hall, where Emperor Kraz Fold waited on his portable throne. Hundreds of high-ranking NIGMA officials were present to witness the historic moment. "Approach, humans," the Emperor commanded. "Kneel before the NIGMA Empire." Ambassador Donovan stepped forward and bowed low. "We bring gifts to mark this occasion, Emperor. May I present them?" The Emperor waved his hand in permission. Donovan and the other humans opened their containers, revealing small devices that looked like ceremonial objects. "At last, these creatures understand their place," the Emperor declared to his assembled commanders. What the NIGMA didn't know was that each device contained Dr. Wright's modified technology. When Ambassador Donovan pressed a hidden button, all 7 devices activated at once. There was no explosion, no visible effect at all. But throughout the massive ship, NIGMA neural interfaces flickered and failed. The signal spread through their communication network, jumping from ship to ship across their entire fleet. The Emperor stood suddenly, his 6 eyes wide with confusion. "What is happening?" he demanded. But even as he spoke, the neural implants that connected him to the Imperial network went dark. Across NIGMA space, their ships and installations fell silent as the command network collapsed. The technology they had relied upon for generations became useless in minutes. 6 months after the day the NIGMA command network collapsed, Admiral Collins stood at the window of his office. Earth looked peaceful from space, but the planet had changed forever. Humans now knew they were not alone in the galaxy, and they had proven they could defend themselves against even the most powerful enemies. "The reports from the outer sectors are in," said Ambassador Donovan, who had just entered the room. "The NIGMA Empire exists only in fragments now." The Admiral turned from the window. "And the former NIGMA worlds?" "Most have declared independence," Donovan replied. "Some have formed new alliances. Without their central command structure, the NIGMA forces scattered across the galaxy. Many ships simply drifted in space, their crews unable to function without orders from above. It had been a strange kind of victory. The humans hadn't destroyed the NIGMA. They had simply removed their ability to act as a unified empire. The species that had terrorized the galaxy for thousands of years had effectively vanished as a power. In what was once the NIGMA throne room, now repurposed as a meeting chamber for the newly formed Galactic Council, Commander Allison Hart watched as representatives from dozens of formerly subjugated species gathered. Some looked like insects, others like reptiles, or even living crystals. All had suffered under NIGMA rule, and all were now free. "This is quite a sight," said Captain Daniel Morrison, who stood beside her. Allison nodded. "I never imagined our first contact with alien life would lead to this." Admiral Collins and Ambassador Donovan entered the chamber. The room grew quiet as the Admiral stepped up to speak. "We didn't destroy the NIGMA," Collins explained to the gathered aliens. "We simply removed their ability to dominate others. Their technology failed them because they relied too much on central control. They never understood the power of independent thought and action." A tall, blue-skinned alien stepped forward. "For 10,000 years, my people lived under NIGMA control. How did you defeat them so quickly when others could not?" Allison took the question. "Humanity never wanted this conflict. We warned them. We asked for peace. But we also prepared for war, because our history taught us that freedom sometimes must be defended." "And if the NIGMA return?" asked another alien representative. "Then we will face them again," Ambassador Donovan said. "But perhaps they will have learned from this experience. Perhaps next time they will come as equals, not conquerors." In the following weeks, a new alliance took shape. Many former NIGMA worlds joined with Earth and other free planets. Ships that had once enforced imperial rule now patrolled trade routes, protecting merchant vessels from pirates and criminals. Dr. Victor Garcia, the psychologist who had studied NIGMA behavior, updated Earth's first contact protocols with a new primary directive. "Remember the NIGMA, a species that vanished not because they were inherently evil, but because they refused to recognize that true strength comes from adaptation, cooperation, and respect." One evening, aboard the rebuilt U.S. Valiant, Lieutenant William Carter stood in the observation room, looking out at the stars. Captain Katherine Johnson joined him. "Beautiful view," she said, following his gaze to a distant cluster of stars. "Do you think they'll ever return?" Carter asked. "The NIGMA, I mean." "Perhaps," Johnson replied. "But if they do, I hope they return as equals, not conquerors. That was always the choice we offered them." Carter nodded. "It's strange to think about. Such a powerful empire, gone in just a few months because they couldn't imagine losing." "That was their greatest weakness," Johnson said. "They never learned from failure because they never allowed themselves to fail. Humans have been failing and learning from it our entire history." As the Valiant prepared for its next mission, Earth continued to change. New technologies developed from studying NIGMA systems made space travel faster and easier. Human colonies expanded, but always with the memory of the conflict fresh in their minds. The NIGMA empire had vanished, But humanity's journey among the stars had only just begun, and this time they moved forward not as conquerors, but as explorers and peacekeepers, carrying the lessons of the past into the vast unknown future.